Hey, we're talking about word choices, and today, words we value. If you think of words like money, certain words have more value. They just mean more, they convey more, and they have more power. Love and hate, for instance, those two words mean so much in so many different situations. Today, we're going to talk through this idea of the words we value and learn more about the words we choose. That's today's antidote.
Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Hey, Tom. Uh-oh, Tom froze on me. You're frozen.
What?
You're fuzzy and frozen, which can't be a good sign.
Uh-oh. Can you hear me at least?
You're slowly coming back to us.
Okay, that's good.
Shoo.
So how are you doing today?
I'm good now that I see you in full face. I wasn't quite prepared to carry this discussion by myself for 20 minutes. It would have been the shortest episode ever.
Maybe that would have been okay. Is that short doesn't mean anything, right?
Yeah.
Sounded like there was an implied judgment in there. And that was last week. I thought we got through that last week.
Here we go.
All right, everyone, good morning and welcome to today's Antidote, our daily broadcast and podcast, where Bob and I will have a conversation around the topic of the week. This week's topic, as Bob mentioned, is word choices. And today we are going to discuss words we value. And as we go through that conversation, if you have thoughts or ideas you want to share around that, please put them in the comments of whatever social media you happen to be watching this on. It could be Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, or
LinkedIn Live.
LinkedIn Live.
It still makes you laugh. That's the funniest part of it all.
You doing it or me saying it afterwards?
You just you just laugh each time. I don't know why.
I'm not 100% sure why either. I hope you're not judging it.
No, I just find it funny.
Anyhow, and at the end of the show, Bob and I will each offer our one thing, our today's antidote. And if you have a comment or thought or an antidote of your own, please feel free to share it, as we know that not only will it help maybe us, it will have an impact on someone else who may be desperately looking for exactly what you are sharing. So please feel free to do that. If you happen to be listening to our podcast, we know, unfortunately, there is no way to share comments.
Tom, that's not true. You can yell out your window. It's warming up all over the country. You could literally be screaming at people.
Fair enough. So there is one option for you to consider. If you choose not to be that person that everyone looks at with their headphones on or their radio blaring and yell out the window, I don't know why. That might just be you worried about them passing judgment on you. Again, a great conversation from last week that if you missed it, you might want to go back and listen to those episodes. Please feel free to join us in a Ring of Renegades.
You lost your place. You got so wrapped up.
Please feel free to join us in our Ring of Renegades Facebook group where other renegades are gathering, and you can share that information there. All week, we will be talking around the topic of word choices. And so you can join us in that conversation and add value, either gain it for yourself or share what you have with others. So every day, though.
Can I add something?
Of course.
I was talking to someone over the weekend, and they were concerned that if they went into the Ring of Renegades Facebook group, they weren't sure how much of a renegade they were. And they were afraid that, they wouldn't fit in. And I said, the beauty of this is you can be at whatever level renegade you are. You could be someone who's just heard the word for the first time and go in there and find value. You could be someone who, since the day you were born, you thought you were a renegade, and everywhere in between in that continuum. And I explained that to the person. They said, oh, that sounds like a really good place to go visit. So I just wanted to share that with people because I think there's this perception that if I'm not a full renegade, like I do all kinds of renegade stuff, I can't fit there. And I will tell you, I have days where I'm a real renegade, and I have days where not quite as much of a renegade.
Sounds like a judgment.
But it speaks to the idea that it's at whatever level you're at. Because I think if you're thinking you have to be like the super crazy renegade and everything I do is renegade. If people are having dinner first and then dessert, I have dessert and then dinner. If people are reading this book, I read that book. If people, I turn my clothes upside down. I do all these crazy things to be a renegade. But to me, being a renegade is just carving your own pathway of success, as you and I have talked about. And that can take many, many forms.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There is no one way to be a renegade. It's just what's real for you. So, all right. Thanks for sharing that. That's a good observation for people to make sure that they are aware of. So now, before we dive into our topic, though, every day we share our celebrations. What are you celebrating today?
I'm going to celebrate laughter. My ribs hurt this morning because I was laughing so hard last night with someone. And I got up this morning, I'm like, oh man, I feel like I did a double ab workout. And it was just because I was laughing so hard last night. And I'm someone who sees the value of laughter all the time. I try to bring laughter wherever I can. But it was really valuable to me last night, the laughter that was brought to me. How about you?
So I'm going to celebrate the value, since we're talking about value a little bit today, of our 3 questions after every action. What went well, what didn't go as planned, and what might I do differently? Because I used those questions over the last few months as part of something that I was doing. And by using those questions to not judge rather than to measure and try to learn from my experience and change my knowledge and perspective, that I was able to achieve something that I was really trying to achieve. And that was a significant step forward for me in a certain area. And so to me, the value of not judging my actions, rather taking the time to evaluate, measure, and figure out how I could move forward to the next action, helped me achieve a goal that I was trying to achieve. That's my celebration.
Wow. I'm curious. There's a whole lot there that you didn't describe. I can't wait till after a show to learn more.
Yeah, it's just something that, it doesn't need to be shared at the moment.
Okay. I wouldn't know what that's like, Tom.
It's not true.
Words have been stated on this program.
Sometimes we just choose not to share. That's all.
So I do not have the book in front of me. I will confess.
You mean
watch this shameless plug? I have the other book in front of me, but not that book.
Why don't you share something from that book?
I could do that, I guess. This is a book called The 55 Soft Skills That Guide Employee and Organizational Success, written by the great Dr. Tobin Porterfield and me. So I'm going to describe what soft skills are, okay? Soft skills are not technical skills, the aptitude, knowledge, and expertise that enable you to perform work. Soft skills are different. They are somewhat nebulous. The situation in which they're applied greatly influences how they're used and which ones to use. What works in one situation probably won't work in another. Think of the skills you need to use to be an effective team leader or colleague. Skills like listening, empathy, being persuasive, being a leader, leading change in an organization, to name a few of the 55. How to lead a team on a project changes from project to project. With one group, you have to offer constant reminders. With another, it might be constant feedback or praise. And you won't know until you get into the situation and try things.
Thank you for sharing that definition of soft skills. So we're celebrating soft skills today.
Sure, that would be lovely. Yes. And if someone wants all 55 of them, they can certainly contact me and I will give them a list of the 55.
Not the book.
Oh. They're there.
You didn't want them to possibly purchase your book?
You could purchase this book, yes. It's a beautiful guide. It's kind of a dictionary of the soft skills. It tells you what each soft skill is and how it's often applied in work. So we've got one, Managing Stress, talks about the effects of stress, and that talks about how you might manage it, for instance.
Nice. Excellent. What's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Why don't you DM me on wherever you are?
Slide into your messages.
What's that?
Isn't that the language? Just slide into my DM.
You're asking the wrong guy.
Fair enough.
I'm still trying to figure out how to do emojis on my phone. I will confess.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Well, thank you for sharing that. And we hope that if you have a celebration you'd like to share, please feel free to put it in the comments. We would love to hear it. And we know that it might help you start your day or move forward from wherever you were at to find a space to be your next best self. So, all right.
Wait, not next best self, right?
Yeah.
Next best makes it sound like there's a better one out there.
Okay.
And by the way, I think best self would be a judgment.
It would be. Absolutely. I was trying to figure out how to say it without saying it, and I was struggling with it. So I needed to
self, right? Your new self.
Sure.
Today, I'm my new self.
Yes.
You're your new self with new knowledge, experience, and perspective.
Yes. Thank you.
No, right?
I just didn't get to those words. So let's talk a little bit about the words that we value. And this was an interesting one for me even though I think I developed the topics, this was one that I had to think a little bit about this morning. Like, okay, what's this conversation going to look like? So I'm interested to hear your thoughts and ideas around our word choices and the words we value.
Well, first of all, it's unique. Every single person has their own list of words that they value. I think I shared the other day, maybe yesterday, that the word fight really has power to me. Another word that has incredible power to me is the word failure. I use it. When I use the word failure, it means a lot to me. That is not an easy, oh, you failed. If I say I failed, I mean I failed, like colossally. And yes, that's a judgment. I hear it. And so many of the words we use are judgments, both good and bad. And the word that jumps at me that's probably the most universally understood and misunderstood is the word love, followed closely by success.
Okay.
Because we often have someone else's definition of success. And I've been someone who's used other people's definition of success many times to evaluate my own success. And so I place an unrealistic value on that word because it's not my word. And that's one of the things I've come to realize about words. Communication is really me using words to convey thoughts and ideas to a person who hopefully the recipient is hearing it the same way I've said it. So if I say, Tom, I love you, you hear that as a positive thing. Could be that you're like, oh, my mother used to say that to me. It really freaked me out. Or it's a guy saying it to me. That's really awkward. Or he said it on this forum. That's even more awkward. All those things come into play in our heads. So the words we use and what we mean often is complicated, and the value of those words isn't always clear.
It's likely never clear.
Uh-oh, you froze.
I did.
Oh, you're back.
Yeah, I just wonder if it's ever clear. Because again, we are sharing it based on our knowledge, experience, and perspective, and someone is receiving them based on theirs. And I think that that's one of the challenges with words and communication is that we know what we're trying to say and the message we're trying to convey. The other person doesn't necessarily see it in the same light. They come to it with their knowledge, experience, and perspective. And so it sometimes gets mixed up based on how they view it as opposed to how we say it. Someone says someone gave the comment that the term love is used loosely.
Very loosely. Yes.
Maybe that's just how they define love. And I think that's one of those things, is that if we want to choose to consider how someone else uses the word, we are making a judgment without really having all the facts and details and information. Maybe there is someone who truly loves all the people they tell that they love.
Tom, you are frozen and garbled. So I'm going to talk for a couple minutes, okay? While you figure that out. So I think, love's a very interesting word. I also think this really plays a role when you're leading a team or running an organization. The words you use can really make a difference. I once worked in a job where I led 3 women, and I led a meeting every week with the women, and I used Bob speak as the coach I worked with, helped me understand. And she said to me, okay, Bob, she would say, what did you say at the meeting last week? And I tell her what I said, because I wrote down notes. And she'd say, okay, tell me all the meanings for what you said. I'm like, there's only one meaning. No, come on, you're a smart guy. What's another meaning? This. What's another meaning? This. What's another meaning? This. What's another? She would pepper me with this for 20, 30 minutes. And I would come up with 30 different meanings of what I said. And she'd say, okay, what makes you think that the one they're going to respond to is the one that you had? Because, yeah, I agree. You use words really well, but you can see the confusion. And that really opened my eyes to the need to talk to people more one-on-one, and also the need to find common language with people. And I don't know that we always do that. I don't know that we do that with teams as much as we could. I don't think we do it enough with our customers as much as we could. And I think it's an area of opportunity so that you have a shared value for the words you're using. And to me, that's one of the keys for a team is if they talk about collaboration, they all know what that means to them. And that definition of collaboration in a team might be different than your definition or mine. Their definition of success could be very different. I've worked with companies where we define success. What is success? And we literally spend an hour coming up with a shared definition of success so that when they say, hey, we had success, they're all sharing in that vision, that creation that they have that's uniquely them. And I've done that probably 10 times with companies. I've never had the same assessment of success. It's always been different. Some it's financial, some it's a happy team, some it's achieving a goal without working overtime, some it's being able to take vacation and get things accomplished. Doesn't matter to me, but it matters to that team that they all are rowing in the same direction. And I think when we value words, to value words is to value words in concert with someone else or other people. Because otherwise, it's like money. If I put money in my bank account and leave it there, yeah, it's there. I've got that money, but did I enjoy it? Did I get to go out to dinner with people? Did I get to do all those things? No. To me, the value of money often is to share it with someone else, to be able to go to someone and say, hey, let's go to the movies. Hey, let's go see this, let's go to this really nice restaurant. That, to me, the value of money is when I can share it. And I think the value of words is when we can share those words.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think there's a lot of really good things in there. I think one of I think the biggest challenge is that because we define words differently, or they mean, or what we, either how we value them or what we have as our definition of them, which is probably a more specific definition than you might get in a dictionary, doesn't necessarily mean that someone else values it or defines it more specifically the same way that you do. And I think that because of that, the challenge, there's significant challenges in communications, is that what one of us is saying is going to resonate differently with someone else. And what they say is going to resonate differently with us, because we all have unique knowledge, experience, and perspective that will bring us to that point. And I think, a little bit about what you were saying was that the more we are connected, engaged, and share our value for a word, the more others will understand. Doesn't necessarily mean they will agree. They will at least start to understand. The more you're around someone and the more you use certain words, that is how they are going to start to what their perspective is of your definition of that word and how you choose to use it. And I think that that's one of the challenges when you meet new people or you have new interactions, is that you're now trying to figure out what is the value of the words that each other uses, and even more specifically, how do you define it? And what does that definition look like? And I think so often one of the challenges is that we assume that everyone has the same value and the same definition, specific definition of a word, and can lead to misunderstandings that will impact what's real for each of us. And sometimes it leads to a judgment, the way we use certain words. And I think that that's, one of the biggest challenges we have in communications. And I think why it's important, and why I've really tried over the last 2 years to focus on the words that I use and why I use them. And I think sometimes when I forget, then I fall into the same trap that I've been trying to avoid. And I'm not sure it's an easy one, it's probably one that we will always continue to battle. Again, as we not only continue to communicate with those we know, we start to communicate with those that we don't. And we're always trying to provide as much information around that as we can. And I think things like actions add to that. When you're using certain words and you take certain actions, that will enhance the way someone else perceives it and starts to understand how you value that word.
Mm-hmm. And I think, I'm going back to the word failure. I've had people say to me before, hey, that was a real failure. And they have no idea how important that phrase is to me, that word, and they don't read it really well. One of the things I think I've gotten better at is reading people's reaction to words and being able to notice the slight change of their facial expression when you use a word, and then say, hey, I'm sorry. Did I say something that your face changed? And then they go, you use this word, and sometimes I don't know what that word means. Okay. Sometimes it's, can you define that word for me? Because I'm not sure how you're using it here, and I hear it differently in my head than the way I think you might be saying it. I think that's the opportunity here. My one thing today would be is, if you really value words and how you use them, you've got to be clear with what you're saying, and clear that the person receiving it receives it the way you intend it. And sometimes you have to go back and clean up things. Sometimes you have to go back and clarify. And sometimes you have to admit to someone that, hey, that probably wasn't the best word choice. I probably could have said something different to you in that moment.
And how would you know that until you've said it?
Right. Exactly. So I think that's my one thing, those ideas right there. What's your one thing?
I think my one thing is that we all value words differently. And because of that, it can create challenges. And I think the more that we can understand that how someone else shares a word, that's what's real for them, may or may not be similar to what's real for us. And so we can react, or we can try to share with them. Here's what happens. If someone said to you that, wow, that was a real failure, you could go back and say, well, that's interesting. I mean, I appreciate that. That's what's real for you. And I look at it as an opportunity to learn. As if I didn't take this action, I would never have the opportunity to have learned from that action. And so I can understand why you might see that as a failure. That's the way some people view it. For me, it is an opportunity to learn, and that I learn when things don't go as planned, in some ways more effectively than I do in others. And so I think that that's, to me, I guess my one thing is realizing that we all value words differently, and that value, if we can avoid judgment on someone else's value, we will find ways to communicate more effectively in the end.
I like that. Tom, I'm going to run a really long comment from Taylor Smith, who's coming in through LinkedIn Live. LinkedIn Live! It's working today. Our experience really does dictate how we perceive language. Example, I went to school in the mountains. Hiking meant climbing uphill through the woods up a mountain. Now I live where it's almost entirely flat, and I've been asked to go hiking by others and was disappointed when the trails were entirely flat. Just through my personal experience, I was disappointed in the use of hike when we really just went on a walk. So many things can be perceived differently, even though they may be, they may be, and I think that's where it ended. Understood probably is the next word. But
yes,
Taylor, that's a great insertion into this discussion. I like that because that's a great example of the word hiking can mean different things to different people.
Certainly. And I think there's now the opportunity. There was the opportunity for her to share with her friends and her new experiences. Well, that's interesting. When I use the word hike, I think of going up and down hills and over and around and about. And if it's pretty flat, it's just a walk. and again, there is no way that those people that shared that or invited her to that hike would ever have known that.
Right.
Until they shared it. And now they see, oh, I can see why you consider that a difference. It might not change what's real for them. They may say with other people, hey, let's go on a hike. And people, because they've lived there longer, be like, yeah, okay, it's going to be a flat walk. Now when they share again opportunities to go on what they would say hike with Taylor, they would say, hey, do you want to go on a walk? Because they understand for her, that means different things.
Yes.
And I think that's the value of, obviously we react, we're humans. And then how do we not let that reaction have an impact on our relationship with this person who we're trying to figure out how to communicate with? And the more we communicate, the more we're going to understand their knowledge, experience, and perspective and how it is likely different than ours.
Likely, I think it's all but guaranteed because we're all on our unique pathway.
Correct. Although the more we communicate, the more it will come closer.
Correct. It can go further away.
That's true too.
If the people say to Taylor, hey, guess what? We're going for a hike. If you don't like the word hike, don't come with us. Which is a choice.
It is a choice. Absolutely.
I doubt they do that, but it is a possibility. And I think we do that unintentionally often.
And they could forget. If they have been using that word that way for that long, it's very hard in our mind. It's like with the word but that I try not to use. And yet there are times, because for however many years I use that, it's hard to change.
Thank you, Taylor, for that comment.
Yes, really, very much appreciate it.
Yeah, that really helped crystallize so much for me.
All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for being with us. If you have something you'd like to share, like Taylor did, please feel free to put it in the comments. As you know, it will have an impact. It may actually be the thing that helps wrap the show up or clarify it for someone else because they heard it differently from you than they were hearing it from us, which is likely to happen. So please feel free to share those in the comments. Thanks so much for being with us today. We look forward to seeing you inside our Ring of Renegades Facebook group, where, again, you can share comments. We'll be talking about word choices all week. And if we don't see you there, we'll see you tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time, for our next edition of Today's Antidote. Have a great day, everyone.
Hey, embrace the renegading you and go out and use those soft skills. Maybe even think about the value of a word or two today.
Or the value of the words that we use for soft skills.
There you go. Ooh, I like that. Nice.
All right, everyone. Have a great day. Thanks for listening to Today's Antidote, powered by the Renegade Success Network. The Renegade Success Network helps you confidently create your own unique pathway to success. To learn more about the Renegade Success Network and how you can take your next step, follow us on Twitter, connect on LinkedIn, or join the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. For full details on how you can join our community, Go to renegadesuccessnetwork.com. Embrace the renegade in you.